Welcome to Co-Pilot Podcasts. Thousands of Catholics are unknowingly using the wrong terminology every single week. What they call a Vigil Masses on Saturday evening isn't actually a vigil at all. It's what's properly called an anticipated Mass. Today we're diving into Saturday Vigil Mass versus Sunday Mass, specifically how Catholics can choose prayerfully between them, what the actual differences are, and why understanding these distinctions matters for your spiritual life. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly what canon law says about your obligations and how to make informed decisions about when to attend Mass.
You know, this confusion is so widespread that even parish bulletins get it wrong. According to D.D. Emmons, writing for The Priest, differentiating between these types of Masses is like trying to explain baseball's infield fly rule. It's genuinely challenging because the terminology has become so muddled.
Wait, so when I go to what my parish calls Saturday Vigil Mass, that's not technically correct?
Exactly. What most people attend on Saturday evening is properly called an anticipated Mass. It's essentially the Sunday Mass celebrated early. A true Vigil Mass is something completely different, with its own special prayers and readings.
Okay, so help me understand this distinction. What makes a true Vigil Mass different?
True Vigil Masses are celebrated before certain major solemnities and have their own dedicated readings and prayers, what liturgists call propers, that are different from the actual feast day. According to the current Roman Missal, there are only 7 solemnities that have proper Vigil Masses.
7? That seems like a pretty small number.
Right. Christmas, Epiphany, Ascension, Pentecost, the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Nativity of St. John the Baptist, and Saints Peter and Paul. Plus, the Easter Vigil, which stands apart as what the Missal calls the mother of all vigils.
So when we're talking about choosing between Saturday and Sunday Mass, we're really talking about anticipated Mass versus the regular Sunday celebration?
Exactly. And here's where it gets interesting from a canon law perspective. According to Canon 1248, your Sunday obligation is satisfied by attending Mass either on the holy day itself or on the evening of the preceding day.
But when does evening actually begin? Is there a specific time?
Great question. Pope Pius XII defined this back in 1953 as not before 4 p.m. Interestingly, the Church has never officially defined when evening begins, but at the Vatican, evening Mass is celebrated at 5 p.m. or later.
So technically, I could attend a 4 p.m. Saturday Mass and fulfill my Sunday obligation?
Absolutely. And according to canon law experts, there's no legal distinction between fulfilling your obligation on Saturday versus Sunday. As one Reddit user put it when asking about this, you can attend Saturday Vigil Mass for any reason or no reason at all.
That's actually pretty liberating. I think a lot of Catholics feel like they need a good reason to go Saturday instead of Sunday.
Exactly, and that's one of the biggest misconceptions. The Church gives Catholics this flexibility intentionally. Whether you're not a morning person, have work obligations, or just prefer the Saturday community, all of these are perfectly valid reasons.
But let's talk about the historical context here. How did we get to this point where Saturday evening became an option?
This is fascinating. According to research by Father Sean Tunink, the 1917 Code of Canon Law actually restricted Mass to morning hours only, no earlier than 1 hour before dawn and no later than 1 hour after noon.
Wow, so evening Masses are a relatively recent development?
In the modern era, yes. Though, interestingly, the very first Mass, the Last Supper, was celebrated in the evening on a Thursday. But the early Church quickly shifted to morning celebrations to commemorate the resurrection.
So we've kind of come full circle in a way?
In some ways, yes. Evening Masses started becoming more common during World War II, when special indults were granted due to wartime hardships. People needed more flexibility in their worship schedules.
That makes sense. But let's get back to the spiritual aspect. Are there any meaningful differences between attending Saturday versus Sunday from a worship perspective?
This is where it gets really interesting. The anticipated Mass on Saturday uses the exact same readings and prayers as Sunday Mass. Liturgically, they're identical. The only difference is timing and often the community that gathers.
So it's really about personal preference and circumstances?
Largely, yes. Though there's one important caveat from Canon Law 1247, attending Saturday Mass doesn't change your Sunday obligation to rest and abstain from unnecessary work. You still need to observe Sunday as the Lord's Day.
Ah, so I can't just go Saturday and then treat Sunday like any other day?
Exactly. According to Catholic Doors Ministry, faithful Catholics should still avoid shopping on Sunday when it can be done on Saturday, and should spend Sunday resting, enjoying time with family, doing spiritual reading, and reflecting on God's creation.
That's actually a really important distinction that I don't think many people realize.
Right. The Mass obligation and the rest obligation are separate but related. You fulfill one on Saturday, but you still need to honor the other on Sunday.
Now, let's talk about how someone should actually make this decision prayerfully. What factors should Catholics consider?
Well, first and foremost, both options fulfill your obligation equally. So you're free to consider practical factors like work schedules, family needs, or even just which Mass time allows you to be more present and focused.
That's refreshing. Sometimes I think we overcomplicate these decisions.
Absolutely. And consider this, some people find Saturday evening Mass allows them to start their Sunday in a more restful, contemplative way. Others prefer the traditional Sunday morning gathering as part of their weekly rhythm.
Are there any situations where one might be preferable over the other?
Well, if you're caring for young children, Saturday evening might be easier. If you work weekends, Saturday could be your only option. If you value the traditional Sunday community gathering, Sunday morning might feel more meaningful to you.
And what about those true vigil masses we talked about earlier? How do those factor into decision-making?
Those are special cases. For the 7 major solemnities that have proper vigils, you're actually choosing between 2 different liturgical celebrations. The vigil has its own character and emphasis, like Christmas Vigil, focusing on covenant promises and Davidic lineage.
So for Christmas, attending the Vigil Mass versus Christmas Day Mass would actually be different experiences?
Exactly. The Christmas Vigil uses readings from Isaiah, Acts, and Matthew's genealogy, emphasizing how Christ fulfills Old Testament promises. It sets the stage for the Christmas Day celebrations that follow.
That's beautiful. It sounds like these vigils have a more preparatory, anticipatory character.
Precisely. Historically, vigils were about keeping watch. Christians would spend the whole night in prayer, fasting, and psalm singing to prepare for the great feast. The word vigil literally means watching.
Wow. So we're talking about a tradition that goes back to the 4th century?
Even earlier. Deacon Wally Calabrese notes that pilgrimage accounts from the late 4th century describe these solemn nocturnal assemblies in Jerusalem. And church fathers like Augustine preached at these night watches.
It's amazing how these ancient practices have evolved but still connect us to that early Christian community.
Absolutely. And here's something interesting. According to the Catechism of Perseverance from 1849, vigils were originally days of fasting and abstinence. By 1917, only 4 vigils retained fasting requirements: Pentecost, Assumption, All Saints, and Christmas.
So the penitential aspect has largely disappeared?
For the most part, yes. Modern vigils focus more on the prayer and preparation aspects rather than fasting and penance, though some traditional Catholics still observe these practices voluntarily.
Let's address some common misconceptions. What are the biggest misunderstandings you encounter about this topic?
The biggest one is definitely the terminology confusion we started with. But another major misconception is that you need a good reason to attend Saturday instead of Sunday. Canon law makes no such distinction.
Right, we touched on that earlier. Are there any other big ones?
Some people think the readings have to be the same for it to count, but Canon Law 1248 specifically states that the obligation is satisfied regardless of which readings are used, as long as it's a Catholic Mass on the right day or evening.
That's actually really important for people who might attend special masses like weddings or funerals on weekends.
Exactly. Canon law expert Kathy Caridi addresses this specifically. Even if you attend a funeral Mass with different readings, it still fulfills your Sunday obligation as long as it's celebrated in a Catholic rite.
So the Church is actually much more flexible than many Catholics realize?
Very much so. The Church recognizes that people have different circumstances, schedules, and spiritual needs. The goal is to make participation in the Eucharist accessible, not to create unnecessary burdens.
That's really beautiful. It shows how the Church tries to meet people where they are.
Absolutely. And remember, according to the Catechism, the Sunday Eucharist is the foundation and confirmation of all Christian practice. The Church wants to make sure everyone can participate meaningfully.
So for someone who's trying to make this decision prayerfully, what would you say is the most important thing to consider?
I'd say focus on when and where you can be most present to the mystery of the Eucharist. Whether that's Saturday evening or Sunday morning, the goal is full, conscious, and active participation in the liturgy.
That's such a helpful way to frame it. It's not about rules and obligations as much as it's about authentic worship.
Exactly. And don't forget the community aspect. Some people find deep meaning in the traditional Sunday morning gathering, while others connect better with the often smaller, more intimate Saturday evening communities.
That's a great point. The community you worship with can really shape your experience.
Right. And here's something else to consider. Your choice might change with different seasons of life. A young parent might prefer Saturday, while a retiree might love the Sunday morning tradition.
So it's okay to be flexible and adapt as your circumstances change?
Absolutely. The Church gives us this flexibility for a reason. Your spiritual life should be sustainable and life-giving, not a source of stress or guilt.
I think that's really liberating for a lot of people to hear.
It should be. Faith is meant to be a source of peace and strength, not anxiety about whether you're doing everything right.
So when you step back from all the technical details and canon law, what's the heart of this whole discussion?
It's about understanding that the Church trusts Catholics to make good decisions about their spiritual lives. Whether you choose Saturday or Sunday, anticipated or regular Mass, the goal is the same: encountering Christ in the Eucharist.
And knowing the actual rules and terminology helps us make those decisions from a place of knowledge rather than assumption or guilt.
Exactly. When you understand that Saturday evening Mass truly fulfills your obligation, not as a lesser option, but as an equal choice, it frees you to focus on what really matters: your relationship with God and community.
That brings us to a beautiful conclusion. Next time you're choosing between Saturday and Sunday Mass, remember, you're not choosing between right and wrong, but between two equally valid ways to fulfill your calling as a Catholic. The Church has given you this freedom intentionally, trusting you to discern what serves your spiritual life best. Thanks for joining us on Co-Pilot Podcasts, and may your choice, whatever it is, draw you deeper into the mystery of the Eucharist.